Today I have 3 more movies for you where we compare the full screen version of the film to the widescreen so you can see exactly what was cropped out. A few changes from what I did last time. First and foremost, before I play each clip, I'm going to show the tech specs from IMDb. I got a lot of comments on the last video that said certain films were filmed on Super 35 or 35mm or the specific cameras they used. So I added that information from IMDb before the clip plays. The other thing I did, based on some feedback from the last video, is I added blue and white dashed lines around the outside of the widescreen version of the film so you can see exactly what is shown in the full screen, what is shown in the widescreen, and what actually is shown in both. So let's jump into the movies. First up is The Lost World Jurassic Park. In this comparison, it is the full screen DVD, which is in the 1.33:1 aspect ratio, to the widescreen Blu-ray, which is in the 1.85:1 aspect ratio. The scene I picked is the T-Rex running through San Diego. The full screen version of the movie does extend well beyond the bottom and top of the widescreen. However, in shots with the dinosaur in it, it doesn't. It instead crops the side of the image. So as you can see from these different shots here, they do a good job framing for both the full screen and the widescreen release. Like here, your focus is on the bus driver and the passengers, not the fact that the bus is part of San Diego Transit. In the next shot, however, you'll notice the bus driver is cropped out of the full screen version. That way they can show the entire dinosaur as part of the shot. So again, interesting to see the choices they make when they release these different versions of the film. Overall, they do a good job keeping the action centered no matter which version of the movie you watch. But at the end of the day, to me, this is just a widescreen movie. It's in the 1.85:1 aspect ratio, which looks great on modern 16:9 TVs, at least from an aspect ratio perspective. So unless you're a diehard fan of 4:3 movies, I would stick to the widescreen here. Next up is Cars. In my last video, I showed The Incredibles, and that was pretty much a straight pan and scan and crop from the widescreen version of the movie. A lot of people in the comment section said that Cars didn't do that they re-rendered the film in a larger 4:3 aspect ratio when they made the full screen version of the movie. And that does appear to be the case. If you look at this comparison, the full screen adds a little bit more on the top and bottom, but does crop the sides a little bit to get everything to fit properly on a 4:3 TV. I do appreciate the fact that when they put this movie in a full screen mode, they did it this way and they didn't just crop the sides, shrink the image, and you miss out on 40% of the movie. I think doing it this way is the proper way of doing it. And I will say, if you're a fan of the Cars movies, if you like watching them and you plan on watching them again, and you've never seen the full screen version, I think it's at least worth checking out. It's just a little bit of a different experience seeing the movie that way versus the traditional way, which is the widescreen format. And finally, we have The Matrix Revolutions. Now, when I saw this at my local library, I was pretty excited. I had heard that they shot the original Matrix trilogy in Super 35, and there are scenes online showing the open map version, which are very tall. Specifically, I was very excited to watch the scene at the end where Agent Smith fights Neo. I've seen this movie enough times before that I thought it'd be cool to watch at least that scene in full screen. However, that wasn't the case. This was a straight pan and scan. They took the widescreen image, for the most part, cropped the sides, and that is what they did for the full screen release. As you kind of watch this scene play out, you're going to notice a lot gets cropped out of the full screen version of the film. It's very zoomed in, like in this shot right here on Neo, and you don't really see the Agent Smiths on either side of him very much. I've heard some people describe watching full screen movies as watching a movie through a keyhole or watching a movie through a telescope, and I never truly understood what they meant until I watched this version of the film. When I put this on my TV, everything just looked weird and way too zoomed in, and I felt like I was missing half the movie. Turns out because I was missing half the movie. Out of the 8 movies I've reviewed so far, this was probably my least favorite full screen version. I would avoid this. You're not missing anything either above or below the scenes, and it's way too zoomed in. And coming up in this top-down view of them running at each other, where in the full screen they seem to be compressing this very wide shot, and as the camera zooms in on the character, they stretch it out. So in order to get the 2 clips to match, I had to take the full screen image, stretch it out so it almost matched the widescreen image, and as the camera zooms in, I shrink the full screen image back to its normal 4:3. And here's that shot. After this, I'll show you the same shot side by side as they would appear on your TV. Maybe it's just me, but I just think that shot's just a bit awkward in the full screen. Anyway, while I was editing these videos, I found a bunch of interesting things that I didn't have time for in this video, so I made another video to go over them. Just some odd things that I noticed when I was going frame by frame that I figured were worth sharing. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, that video should be on your screen right now to watch, or you can go to my channel and watch it there. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and you have yourselves a great day.